Evelyn Turner sat in the quiet of her apartment, the city lights shimmering through the large floor-to-ceiling windows. She had spent countless nights here, staring at the skyline, lost in thought, trying to piece together a life that suddenly felt fractured. Tonight, however, there was a sense of finality, a clarity she hadn't felt in months. The phone buzzed on the table. A message from Michael, her husband of 7 years. She didn't even glance at it before tossing it aside. She had read enough lies from him to last a lifetime. For months, Evelyn had sensed something was wrong. The late nights at the office, the whispered phone calls, the sudden coldness in his eyes. She had tried to ignore it, to rationalize it. But a series of texts accidentally left open on his laptop had shattered the last remnants of trust. Michael was cheating. And he had been lying to her all along. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply, feeling the weight of betrayal press down on her chest. Anger surged, but so did a strange calmness. She realized, with a sense of quiet determination, that she didn't have to stay in this life of deceit. The next morning, Evelyn filed for divorce. She did it quietly, without confrontation, without public drama. It was her way of reclaiming control. She packed her essentials, moved into a smaller but cozy apartment, and began the process of rebuilding herself. Friends and colleagues expressed shock. "I can't believe you're leaving Michael," they said, their voices a mix of sympathy and disbelief. Evelyn shrugged. "I didn't leave him because I hate him. I left because I love myself enough not to stay." It was a statement she repeated often to herself, a mantra that helped her navigate the early days of loneliness and self-doubt. The first few months were the hardest. She navigated awkward encounters with mutual friends, the sting of shared memories, and the constant temptation to check on Michael's life from afar. Yet amidst the pain, she discovered a strength she hadn't realized she possessed. She started to focus on her career, taking on projects that challenged her, reconnecting with hobbies she had neglected, and exploring parts of herself that had been overshadowed by her marriage. Painting classes, weekend hikes, and late-night journaling sessions became her sanctuary. One evening, after a particularly fulfilling day at work, Evelyn sat on her balcony with a glass of wine, reflecting. The city stretched endlessly before her, alive with possibilities. For the first time in months, she felt a sense of freedom rather than emptiness. She was no longer defined by Michael's lies. She was defining herself. It wasn't long before new opportunities, both personal and professional, began to appear. A colleague introduced her to a charity event, where she met people who shared her interests and values. She laughed more freely, engaged in meaningful conversations, and realized that the world outside of her marriage was vast and full of potential. One evening, at a small dinner party organized by her friends, she met James Caldwell, a man whose presence was calm but magnetic. Unlike Michael, he wasn't flashy or controlling. He listened intently, asked thoughtful questions, and seemed genuinely interested in who she was, not what she represented. Their conversations flowed easily, filled with shared humor, subtle flirtation, and a mutual understanding of life's challenges. Evelyn found herself looking forward to their meetings, appreciating his sincerity and respect in a way she hadn't experienced in years. Yet, the shadows of the past lingered. Evelyn occasionally found herself questioning her worth, wondering if she was ready to open her heart again. Trust, once shattered, wasn't easy to rebuild. But James's patience and consistency slowly eroded the walls she had built around herself. One evening, as they walked through a quiet park, James turned to her with a gentle expression. "Evelyn," he said softly, "I know you've been hurt. But I want you to know that I see you. All of you. And I value you for exactly who you are." Her chest tightened, emotions threatening to spill over. I've been hurt before," she admitted. "And it's hard to trust again." He took her hand, squeezing it reassuringly. "I understand. And I'll be here however long it takes, to show you that it's safe to trust again." Evelyn felt a warmth spread through her chest. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to imagine a future where love could exist again. One built on honesty, respect, and genuine connection. As she returned to her apartment that night, Evelyn realized that leaving Michael had been the hardest decision of her life, but also the most liberating. Betrayal had hurt her deeply, yet it had also given her a chance to discover her strength, reclaim her self-worth, and open her heart to someone who truly valued her. For Evelyn Turner, the journey of healing had only just begun. But with each passing day, she grew stronger, more confident, and more ready to embrace a love that was real. The morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains of Evelyn's apartment, casting a soft glow over her small but cozy space. It had been a few weeks since she finalized her divorce, and while the emotional wounds were still tender, she felt a growing sense of purpose and determination. She stretched and glanced at the neatly arranged work files on her desk. Her career had always been important, but during her marriage, she had allowed it to take a back seat to Michael's ambitions and desires. Now, the balance had shifted. Her time was hers, her energy hers, and her choices hers. Evelyn poured herself a cup of coffee and sat down to review the latest proposals for her marketing consultancy firm. Work had become her anchor, a way to regain confidence and focus on something tangible. Every completed project, every positive client email reminded her that she was competent, valuable, and capable of achieving great things, on her own terms. Her phone buzzed with a message from her friend, Clara. "Dinner tomorrow? You need a night out." Evelyn smiled, realizing she hadn't socialized much since the divorce. Accepting the invitation felt like a small but meaningful step toward reclaiming her life. The following evening, Evelyn arrived at the quaint restaurant where Clara had reserved a table. Warm lights and soft music created an inviting atmosphere. Clara waved from the corner booth, a mischievous grin on her face. "You look radiant," Clara said as Evelyn approached. "So, how does it feel to be free?" Evelyn chuckled softly. "Liberating. Terrifying. Exciting. All at once." Clara leaned in. "Good. That's exactly how it should feel. And trust me, freedom looks amazing on you." As they enjoyed their meal, the conversation drifted from work updates to personal growth. Evelyn realized that this was the first time in months that she had allowed herself to talk openly, laugh freely, and not feel the weight of betrayal pressing down on her. Weeks passed, and Evelyn immersed herself in her work and social life. She took up yoga classes, attended local art exhibitions, and even signed up for a creative writing workshop. Each activity reminded her that she was more than a wife or a professional title. She was an individual with passions, dreams, and a life worth living. It was during one of these art exhibitions that she met James Caldwell again. They had briefly met at Clara's dinner party, but this time their interaction felt different. Natural, easy, and warm. James had a calm presence, a genuine interest in people, and a way of making Evelyn feel seen without pressure or judgment. "Evelyn, I didn't expect to see you here," James said, a soft smile on his face. "I could say the same about you," she replied. "I didn't know you were into modern art." He shrugged. "I'm appreciating the pieces. But honestly, I think I'm more interested in the people who appreciate them." Evelyn felt a flutter of surprise and warmth. There was no hidden agenda, no superficial charm, just genuine interest and respect. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, from favorite artists to childhood memories, to the challenges of balancing career and personal life. By the end of the evening, Evelyn realized she had laughed more freely than she had in months. The spark of connection with James was subtle but undeniable. The following days were filled with quiet reflection. Evelyn journaled regularly, noting her feelings about the divorce, her progress in reclaiming her independence, and her growing interest in James. She acknowledged the slow-burning attraction but reminded herself not to rush. Trust, she knew, had to be rebuilt slowly, with both herself and others. One afternoon, as she reviewed a client presentation at a local cafe, James appeared at her table with a coffee in hand. "Thought you could use a refill," he said, smiling warmly. Evelyn laughed. "You remembered." "Of course," he replied. "I enjoy seeing you in your element. You're focused, determined, radiant." Her cheeks flushed lightly, but she allowed herself to enjoy the compliment. "Thank you, James. That means a lot." They spent the next hour talking about their ambitions, life lessons, and hopes for the future. James's calm and thoughtful demeanor contrasted sharply with Michael's manipulative and dismissive behavior, reminding her how much she had lost, and how much she could still gain. By the end of the week, Evelyn realized something important. Her life was no longer defined by betrayal, heartbreak, or loss. She was building something stronger. A life filled with purpose, growth, and the potential for genuine love. James wasn't a replacement for Michael. He was something new, different, and far healthier. And Evelyn felt ready to explore this possibility, cautiously but with hope in her heart. As she returned home that evening, she paused on her balcony, looking at the city lights reflecting on the river below. The journey of healing had begun, and for the first time in months, She allowed herself to believe that life could be beautiful again. Not despite the past, but because she had survived it. With every step, Evelyn was reclaiming herself, her strength, and her right to love, again. The soft hum of the cafe felt comforting as Evelyn sat across from James, a warm cup of tea between them. The winter afternoon light streamed through the windows, illuminating his face in a way that made her heart flutter, a sensation she hadn't felt in years. They had been spending more time together over the past few weeks. Casual lunches, coffee breaks, and shared walks in the park had slowly nurtured a bond that was easy, natural, and reassuring. James's presence was a quiet strength. He listened, he respected, and most importantly, he didn't rush her. Evelyn stirred her tea, glancing at him. "You know, it's strange," she said softly. "I never thought I'd feel comfortable with someone new. Especially after everything with Michael." James reached across the table, brushing her hand gently. "I understand. Betrayal changes how we see people, how we trust. But you don't have to carry that weight alone anymore. I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere." The sincerity in his voice made Evelyn's chest ache with a mix of relief and tentative hope. For so long, she had been defined by betrayal, by lies, deception, and heartbreak. Now, she was learning that trust could be rebuilt, and that love didn't always have to come with fear. Over the next few weeks, Evelyn found herself opening up in ways she hadn't expected. She shared stories from her past, anecdotes about childhood dreams, and even moments of vulnerability she had kept buried. James listened without judgment, his presence a steady reassurance. One evening, they took a walk along the riverbank. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of winter and the soft murmur of water lapping against the shore. They walked in companionable silence, each step bringing them closer, not just physically but emotionally. Evelyn paused, glancing at him. "James, I want to try to really let myself feel again. But it's scary. I don't want to get hurt." He stopped too, taking her hands in his. "I don't want to hurt you either. But real love is worth the risk. I'll be patient, Evelyn. As long as you need." Her throat tightened. She hadn't realized how desperately she had craved this kind of honesty and respect. The kind of love that didn't manipulate, control, or betray. Slowly, carefully, she nodded. "Okay. Let's try." As winter gave way to early spring, Evelyn and James's relationship continued to grow. They discovered shared passions, cooking, literature, and weekend hikes, and supported each other's ambitions. James admired her drive and resilience, while Evelyn found comfort in his patience and integrity. Yet, despite the warmth of their connection, Evelyn still carried scars from her marriage. There were moments when memories of Michael's lies surfaced unexpectedly. A text message alert, a mutual acquaintance's comment, or even a flashback to a particularly painful argument. Each time, she reminded herself that the past did not define her, but the caution lingered. One afternoon, James invited her to a quiet countryside retreat, away from the city and the lingering stress of work. Evelyn hesitated at first, worried about being vulnerable, but eventually agreed. The retreat was serene, surrounded by blossoming trees and the gentle hum of nature. Evelyn found herself laughing more freely than she had in years, shedding layers of tension and anxiety she hadn't realized she was still carrying. That evening, as the sun set over rolling hills, James and Evelyn sat by a small fire. The warmth of the flames mirrored the warmth in her chest, a gentle burgeoning feeling she hadn't dared to hope for. "Evelyn," James said softly, "being with you has shown me how strong, thoughtful, and incredible you are. I don't want to rush anything, but I hope you know that I care about you deeply." Her eyes glistened with tears, both from gratitude and the realization that she was allowing herself to hope again. "I care about you too, James. More than I thought I could." He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then let's see where this goes. Together." Slowly, carefully, and honestly. Evelyn nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and cautious optimism. She knew the journey ahead wouldn't be without challenges, but for the first time in years, she felt ready to embrace love, a love that was respectful, genuine, and healing. By the time they returned to the city, Evelyn noticed a subtle but powerful shift within herself. The anger and heartbreak that had once dominated her thoughts were gradually replaced by hope, trust, and the recognition of her own resilience. She was no longer a victim of betrayal. She was a woman choosing her own happiness. And with James by her side, She felt that this new chapter could be one of trust, love, and personal growth. A chance to rebuild not just her heart, but her entire life, stronger than ever. Evelyn Turner walked through the lobby of her company building, her heels clicking sharply against the polished marble floor. She had a meeting scheduled with a new client, but something in the back of her mind made her chest tighten. And then she saw him. Michael. He was standing near the elevator, looking just as composed and polished as he had when they were married, but there was an unmistakable tension in his posture. Their eyes met for a brief, charged moment, a spark of old familiarity mixed with the weight of betrayal. Evelyn felt a wave of emotion rise within her, anger, hurt, and a lingering ache she hadn't expected. She reminded herself to stay composed. He no longer had power over her life, her decisions, or her happiness. She was stronger now. Michael approached, his face carefully neutral. "Evelyn," he said, his tone measured. "It's been a while." "It has," she replied, her voice steady, though her heart skipped. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I have business with your company," he said. "We might have overlapping interests." Evelyn nodded politely, maintaining her professional demeanor. She could feel James's words in her mind. Trust herself, stand tall, don't let the past control her. "I'll be in the meeting room," she said, subtly signaling that conversation would end here. "I hope your business dealings go well." Michael paused, his expression unreadable, before turning and walking away. Evelyn exhaled, a mixture of relief and residual tension coursing through her. Facing him had been harder than she anticipated, but she felt empowered by her composure. Later that evening, Evelyn met James at a quiet cafe to decompress. He noticed immediately that her hands were slightly trembling. "Rough day?" he asked gently, sliding a cup of tea toward her. She nodded. "I ran into Michael today. In the lobby of my office. It was complicated." James reached for her hand, offering support without intruding. "How did it make you feel?" "Stronger, oddly enough," she admitted. "I realized that I can face him, face the past, without letting it dictate my present or my future. I'm still me. Still in control of my life." He smiled, his eyes warm. "That's the woman I know. You've come a long way, Evelyn. And I'm proud to be part of your life while you continue to grow." Her chest warmed at his words. Trusting someone again had been difficult, but James had shown her patience, respect, and unwavering support. Facing Michael today had reinforced how far she had come. Over the next few weeks, Evelyn noticed subtle reminders of her past everywhere. An email forwarded mistakenly from an old colleague, a mutual friend asking about Michael, or even the occasional news headline mentioning him. But each time, she reminded herself of her growth. She had survived betrayal, rebuilt her life, and discovered her self-worth. James continued to be her anchor. Their relationship, once tentative and cautious, had blossomed into something deeper. They spent weekends exploring the city, cooking together, and sharing dreams for the future. With him, Evelyn experienced the kind of connection she hadn't thought possible after Michael. One evening, as they walked along the river, James stopped and looked at her seriously. "Evelyn," he said softly, "I know the past still lingers, and I know seeing Michael today wasn't easy. But I want you to know, whatever comes, we face it together. No judgment, no pressure. Just us." Her throat tightened, and she blinked back tears. "Thank you, James. That means more than I can say. I don't want the past to dictate my future. And I want that future with you." He smiled, lifting her hand to his lips briefly. "Then let's keep building it. Step by step, day by day." A week later, Evelyn received an unexpected email from Michael. The subject line read, "A conversation." Her initial reaction was hesitation, old habits of fear and anger threatening to take over. But she took a deep breath, recalling the strength she had cultivated over the past months. This time, she had a choice: respond with clarity and boundaries, or let the past pull her into chaos. She opened the email and read the words carefully. Michael claimed he wanted to explain certain decisions he had made during their marriage, suggesting a meeting. Evelyn paused. She considered her options, and after careful thought, she typed a measured response. "Michael, I acknowledge your email. However, I am no longer involved in the life we once shared, and I am focused on my present and future. I wish you the best, but I am not interested in revisiting the past. Respectfully, Evelyn. Hitting send, she felt an unexpected wave of relief. No confrontation, no lingering tension, just closure. That evening, as she sat with James on the balcony, watching the city lights, she realized something important. The past no longer held power over her. She had faced it, acknowledged it, and set firm boundaries. James slipped an arm around her shoulders, and she leaned into him, feeling safe and grounded. "You were amazing today," he said softly. "Strong, clear, in control." Evelyn smiled, feeling the weight lift completely. "I finally feel free," she admitted. "Not just from him, but from the fear and hurt. I can finally live and love without looking back." James kissed her forehead gently. "And I'll be here, every step of the way." For Evelyn Turner, facing the past wasn't about revenge or regret. It was about reclaiming her power, her peace, and her ability to embrace love again. And with James by her side, she knew her future was bright, open, and filled with possibility. Spring had fully arrived in the city, bringing with it the scent of blooming flowers and the promise of renewal. Evelyn Turner stood on the balcony of her apartment, inhaling deeply as sunlight kissed her face. The months since her divorce had been challenging, but now, for the first time in years, she felt whole. James was beside her, a warm presence that had become her anchor. Their relationship had grown organically, built on trust, respect, and shared laughter, and it had blossomed into a quiet, steady love. Evelyn felt fortunate, and yet she also knew this was a love she had earned, after reclaiming her independence and self-worth. The morning began like any other, with coffee and shared plans for the day. James had suggested they visit a local art gallery, and Evelyn, always curious and eager to explore, agreed. As they walked through the gallery, observing paintings and sculptures, Evelyn found herself marveling at how much she had changed. She remembered the days when betrayal had clouded her every thought, when anger and grief had made her question her value. Now, she felt empowered, confident, and ready to embrace life fully. James noticed her gaze lingering on a particular painting, depicting a phoenix rising from ashes. "That's you," he said softly, his hand brushing hers. Evelyn smiled. "I think you're right. Rising from the ashes. That's exactly how it feels." After the gallery, they wandered to a nearby cafe. Over cappuccinos and pastries, their conversation flowed easily, touching on dreams, travels, and even mundane details of life. Evelyn realized she hadn't felt this relaxed and happy in years. The shadow of betrayal was finally lifting. Later that week, Evelyn received an invitation to speak at a women's empowerment seminar. The opportunity thrilled her. It was a chance to share her story and inspire others who had faced betrayal, heartbreak, or setbacks in their personal lives. She accepted immediately. For the first time, she wanted to speak openly about the lessons she had learned: resilience, self-worth, and the courage to embrace love again. The day of the seminar arrived. Evelyn stood backstage, glancing at the audience gathering in the seats. Her heart fluttered briefly. Nerves always accompanied new experiences, but James's presence beside her calmed her. "You've got this," he whispered. "Just speak from the heart. People will feel your strength and honesty." Evelyn nodded, inhaled deeply, and stepped onto the stage. The bright lights didn't intimidate her. Instead, they felt empowering. "I want to share a story," she began, her voice steady and warm. "A story of betrayal, heartbreak, and the journey to reclaiming my life. I was once defined by lies and deceit, but I've learned that strength comes not from what happens to us, but from how we rise after it. We can choose our own path, rebuild our lives, and embrace love and happiness on our own terms." The audience listened intently, some nodding, others wiping away tears. Evelyn felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Sharing her journey not only affirmed her growth, but also allowed others to see that healing was possible. After the seminar, many attendees approached her, thanking her for her honesty and courage. Evelyn smiled, feeling proud of the woman she had become. That evening, she returned home to find James waiting with a picnic on the rooftop terrace. The city lights sparkled, and the air was filled with the scent of spring blooms. "I wanted to celebrate you," James said, spreading a blanket and gesturing to the simple but beautiful setup. Evelyn's heart swelled. "Thank you, James. I feel like this is the first day I've truly embraced my life, not just survived it." He took her hand, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And I want to be here for every day that follows. Together, we'll continue building this life: love, respect, laughter, and everything in between. Evelyn felt tears of joy prick her eyes. Together, she echoed softly, her heart full. As they ate, laughed, and shared dreams under the night sky, Evelyn reflected on the journey that had brought her here. Betrayal had been painful, divorce had been daunting, and rebuilding had required courage. But in the process, she had discovered her own resilience, her self-worth, and the capacity to love again. Fully and fearlessly. James squeezed her hand gently. "This is just the beginning," he said. Evelyn smiled, looking out at the city that had once seemed overwhelming and now felt like a place of endless possibilities. "Yes," she agreed. "A new beginning for both of us." For Evelyn Turner, the story of betrayal had ended, but the story of love, growth, and empowerment was just beginning. And for the first time in years, she knew she was ready for everything life had to offer, with someone who truly valued her by her side. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more original novel stories. And stay tuned, our next story is coming soon.